Macronutrients are essential for us to live, but what actually are macronutrients? Let's break it down. Macronutrients are nutrients we need in large quantities that provide calories. When I say large quantities, I mean anything that's consumed and measured in grams. If a nutrient is measured in milligrams, it's considered a micronutrient. So for something to count as a macronutrient, it has to do two things: contain calories and be consumed in large amounts because they play a major physiological role. There are three macronutrients: fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. Water usually isn't considered a macronutrient since it has no calories. Some organizations do count it, but in the exercise science field, macronutrients almost always refers to fats, carbs, and proteins. All three macronutrients contain calories. Protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram, while fats have 9 calories per gram, more than double the other two. It's also worth knowing about a few other things in our diet that have calories but are not macronutrients. Sugar alcohols, which is a type of sweetener, have some calories, but they're very minimal. Fiber is similar. They also provide a small amount of calories. And then there's alcohol. Alcohol has 7 calories per gram, so if you're drinking a lot, those calories can add up fast. Alcohol isn't considered a macronutrient because the body doesn't need it to function optimally, and it provides no benefit. Alcohol isn't even considered a nutrient at all because it doesn't contribute anything to your health. Let's start with protein. Protein's main job is acting as the building block for our bodies. It builds and repairs damaged tissues, including skin, organs, muscle, and even bone. But that's not all it does. Protein also is needed to produce hormones, make neurotransmitters, support your immune system, and needed for cell growth. So how much protein do you actually need? According to the National Academy of Medicine, the recommendation is zero point 0.8 to 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. 1 kilogram equals about 2.2 pounds. Your exact protein needs depend on a few things: body composition, activity level, and age. If you're more active, you need more protein than that baseline minimum. And for adults over 50, the recommendation is at least 1 gram per kilogram. Muscle mass naturally declines with age, so eating more protein helps slow that muscle loss down. Here are some solid protein sources to keep in mind. A chicken breast has about 31 grams, a can of tuna has 33 grams, a serving of salmon has 17 grams, and a half cup of tofu is 22 grams. One egg has about 7 grams, a quarter cup of almonds has 7 grams, and 2 tablespoons of hummus has about 2 grams. And of course, protein bars and protein powders can help you reach your protein needs as well. Now let's talk about carbohydrates. Carbs are our main energy source for your brain, heart, organs, and for physical activity. They also help your body hold on to water and stay hydrated. Unlike protein, carb intake doesn't need to be quite as precise. The general recommendation is that carbs make up somewhere between 45 and 65% of your total daily calories. And just like protein, the more active you are, the more carbs you'll need. So what's the difference between simple and complex carbs? Simple carbs are sugary foods and drinks, things like candy, fruit, milk, yogurt, fruit juice, and soda. Complex carbs are the starchier foods: potatoes, pasta, rice, oats, and quinoa. There's a lot of confusion for people when trying to eat healthier. Carbs as a whole aren't really good or bad. They're important for keeping your organs running and giving your body energy, but plenty of carb sources aren't very nutritious. What usually decides whether a carb source gets labeled healthy or unhealthy is what comes along with the carbs you're consuming. Take an apple versus a bag of gummy bears, for example. The sugar, which would be the carbs within each one, is pretty similar, but the apple also brings water, vitamins, and fiber along with it. The gummy bears bring nothing else aside from the calories. That's why the apple is almost always the better choice. Foods themselves can rarely be labeled as good or bad as a blanket statement. That usually depends more on the person eating them than the food themselves. Last but not least, fats. Fat doesn't get nearly the attention that carbs and protein do, but it plays a huge role in keeping your body healthy and functioning. Fat provides energy, and remember at 9 calories per gram, it's more energy dense than carbs or protein. This makes fat especially important if you have a high metabolism or do endurance-based activities, and it's also the main fuel your body uses during rest and low-intensity movement. Fat is also needed to build and repair cells. Every cell membrane in your body is made of fat. Fats also help to absorb fat-soluble vitamins. Without dietary fat, you would struggle to absorb essential vitamins and be at an increased risk of vitamin deficiency. And just like protein, fat is needed to produce various hormones. So what's the difference between saturated, unsaturated, and trans fats? Saturated fat raises LDL. That's the bad cholesterol. And too much LDL can lead to blockages in your blood vessels, which raises the risk of heart attacks and strokes. You'll find saturated fat mostly in red meats. Unsaturated fat does the opposite. It lowers LDL and supports heart health. Good sources include olive oil, avocados, fish, and walnuts. Then there's trans fat, which is the worst one for your heart. It raises LDL and lowers HDL. HDL is the good cholesterol that helps clear LDL out of your blood vessels. Trans fats show up mostly in processed foods. Think packaged desserts and deep fried fast food. Once again, it's worth mentioning that foods are considered good or bad based upon who is consuming them, not by the food itself, but trans and saturated fats have been shown to have a negative impact on heart health. One more important distinction, dietary fat versus body fat. Eating fat doesn't automatically turn into body fat. Anytime you eat more calories than your body needs to maintain its current weight, those extra calories get stored as fat. And that's true whether those extra calories come from protein, carbs, fat, or alcohol. Body fat is essentially just stored energy. Dietary fat, on the other hand, actively builds cells and absorbs fat-soluble vitamins. Body fat can hold on to some fat-soluble vitamins, but dietary fat does the bulk of the work when it comes to absorbing those vitamins. And both dietary fat and body fat play a role in producing hormones. So to wrap up, all three macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat, play an important role in keeping your body healthy and functioning at its best. Don't neglect any of them, but try to choose the sources that work best for you. Thanks for watching.